Alright guys, so I thought that it made a lot of sense starting off 2020, making a video where I want to share with you guys some of the best lessons that I learned in 2019. 2019 was one of the craziest years of my life, both in business, personally, and just for a number of other reasons, as I'm sure it was for many of you guys, and I'm sure 2020 will be even crazier. But I think that, like I said, it's important, and I wanted to go through some of these biggest things that I learned in 2019, add a little context to them, and share them with you guys, hoping that people watching this don't maybe make some of the same mistakes or can learn, because like they say, right? It's good to learn from your own mistakes, but it's better to learn from other people's experiences. So one of the biggest things that I learned was that momentum is a secret that unlocks success in almost anything, in almost any arena. And what do I mean by that? So I read a book years and years ago, and one of the biggest things, this guy, he talks about a friend of his who was a billionaire who made, was very successful in business and just said, I'm just overworked. I'm going to get away. And the guy ended up retiring and went away for a couple of years, right? Just to sort of spend his money and do his thing, which is good, right? A much needed break, I think, is needed at times, but a several year break is a very different thing. And it really gets in the way of momentum. So with many things, especially even with this channel, right? It's very momentum based, even with how the algorithms reward people for putting out content. So I think that whether it is with your personal fitness, whether it is with a habit like reading, right? Whether it is anything, making videos and recording it, or even if you're in sales and you're making calls every single day, the habit of doing it often and reoccurring and consistently and creating that momentum makes it easier to just slip back in to those things every single day, and it removes that resistance that you may have, from wanting to go back into those things. And when you stack together day after day after day of doing the right things and doing what you know you're supposed to be doing, that momentum doesn't just go, in a straight line. It's not just 1 + 1 + 1 + 1. It starts to compound, and the results you get from that can be truly special if the momentum is kept. And I, had both times where I had extreme momentum going in 2019, and then also times where I got, off it for a little bit. And I noticed a big difference, and that's something I'm carrying it with me into 2020 and beyond, is how important momentum is, for me personally. The second thing, and this is sort of a newer thing, right? But I was reading Atomic Habits, which is a great book if you guys haven't read it. And the way he said it, this is something I've thought about for quite a while, but the way that James Clear explains it, is that your daily habits are much more important than your goals. And there's some specific reasons why. So what is a goal? A goal is sort of, whatever it is. I want to make $100,000 this year. I want to do this. I want to do that, right? But very oftentimes, a goal you may make is just this specific moment in time, right? Because if the goal is $100,000 to make, anything below that, you're like, I'm failing at my goal. I didn't achieve my goal yet. And so depending on how you rationalize that in your own head, it can actually be a negative thing because you didn't reach the goal that you set for yourself. You're not there yet. And then the other side of that coin is when you reach it, you go, okay, now I'm here, but now what, right? And so goals are good, and I think that they're obviously great to have, and this is to each his own. I'm just sharing with you guys, my tidbit of advice and how I make sense of all this for me. But having a goal is just this one, it's just a very, it's a singular moment, right? That happens, and then what? And then you have to set a new one, right? So your daily habits takes a lot of the stress and pressure off of it, because if your daily habits are set in a way, number one, are they set? Because if they are set, it takes the thinking out of the equation. You don't have to think, what am I doing today? I don't know what I'm doing today. But if you do have these daily habits and daily specific things set up for yourself, you know what you're supposed to be doing. And then when you do them, you could have a sense of like, I did what I was supposed to today. And even, in the evening or later in the day when you want to, screw off and do whatever you do to sort of blow off steam and have a good time, you can feel, or you should feel like you shouldn't have any guilt around that because you did what you were supposed to do that day. And it also we live our lives moment to moment, day to day. I'm not living now for next Thursday, right? I'm making this video right now in this moment and gonna put it out, and then it will live on, and that's now behind me, but then I'm now in that next moment. And so everything, I think, makes a lot more sense when you're looking at what your daily habits are, and you can make tweaks and adjust those, because it makes it much more actionable and digestible to be able to do what it is you want to do. So one of the next biggest things, and excuse me while this plane flies overhead, no matter how high up this apartment is, you still hear sound from the street. It's crazy. Okay, so your words matter as much to other people as they do to how you feel about yourself. So one of the best things, and I was going to do another video on this, I still might, but watching the Conor McGregor fight, right? If you guys watched what he was saying leading up to the fight or what he said after the fight, some of the biggest things he was echoing, and this is just this idea I already had written down on this note, but hearing him say this, I was like, yes, exactly. That's the whole thing I'm trying to encompass. Is that when you know what you're supposed to do. I know what I'm supposed to do. The question then becomes, do you do it? And when you don't do it, the first time you don't do it, it's like, it's okay, I'll go back and do it. But if you don't do it again, and you don't do it again, you know internally that you didn't do what you were supposed to do. And that can manifest itself in a lot of very different ways for people. It oftentimes very negative. You can start to feel almost like you're an imposter, or you're lying to yourself, and you're not being true to yourself as to what you know you're supposed to be doing. And then it makes it back to number one, you sacrifice the momentum. It makes it even harder oftentimes to get back and do that thing because you haven't been doing it for so many days, or whatever length of time. And your word matters so much. I was also reading the 4 agreements. The first part of that is your word, right? It's the one thing that separates people from other types of animals on this planet, is that our word, at least as far as we know, we're totally conscious of our word. It has an effect directly on others. They hear it. It means something in their mind, and it has an effect on us specifically as well. And if we're not doing what we say we're going to do, and we're not doing what we know we're supposed to do, that leads down a path that nobody really wants to be on. So I think as much as that path can be avoided, the better. And the last part, not to end this sort of on a negative one, but I think this is important, and I don't mean so I'm going to read it first. So anticipate the worst outcomes and negative actions from others, and plan accordingly to minimize risk. So oftentimes, I'm sure anybody watching this, I'm sure you guys can relate to some extent, whether it's business or relationships, and if not, you're lucky, that sometimes you start to work with people on a thing, or you get in a relationship with somebody in the beginning, and things seem one way. And oftentimes it's easy to go, it's gonna always be that way. This person is always gonna be that way, or this group of people is always gonna be that way. And sometimes what you've learned, and what I've learned, I think, before in life, is that that's not always the case. And it doesn't mean you should expect it to go sour, right? You should always be looking for people that I think are following some of these other things, right? That what they say, they do. And you want more of those people in your life, because honesty matters, integrity matters, and all these different things. And the difficult part, like I said, is oftentimes people never plan for when things go astray from that, because they're not even considering that. It's like the honeymoon phase, right? It's like, maybe a bad example, but it's like a prenup or something like that, right? It's like, why am I going to sign that? Well, you're saying it's going to go bad, and somebody would say, well, I just don't know. It could go bad. But it's never something people want to think about. People never want to think about when something may not work out as intended, but it is always important to plan for if and when that could happen accordingly for yourself, so that if you're taking the correct actions, you're in a good position. So I don't want to rant too much on these. These are just a couple lessons I learned in 2019, and really though, I'm putting this video out for me as well to sort of document this and log this. So this is something I can go back to, maybe a year from now, maybe 10 years from now, and see, and be happy that I learned these lessons and took different actions because of them. I hope this video was valuable for you guys. Like I said, I'm going to be putting out a lot more content this year. A lot of blockchain, a lot of crypto content. Maybe some ancient history stuff, maybe some world issues, some current events, all kinds of stuff. I'm gonna have some really cool people here on the channel as well, talking, having great conversations, and I hope that you guys enjoy. So thank you guys for tuning into the channel as always. If you can, like the video and subscribe so that more people get it and see it. And I'll see you guys next time. Appreciate it. Thanks.